Welcome back to another episode of We the People, where the people come for the truth. Yeah, baby P here, your host with the most. Enjoy the show.
King Charles III and Queen Camilla.
Alright guys, I want you to understand something about me. Like, I love our country. I'm very patriotic. When people ask me if there's anything that I regret, I always tell people no. And the reason why is because the things that we do shape us for the things that are to come. God never puts nothing on us that we can't handle. However, there is one thing in my life that I always hold secret that I do regret. And I wish I would have joined the military. My grandfather, my uncle, my great-grandfather, my nephew, my cousins, and I was the one that was going to rebel and not join the military because I wasn't going to fight for a government that didn't fight for us. But boy, do I regret that, especially now because President Trump, man, you fight so hard for us, and we thank you from the bottom of my heart. We don't care about them Democrats, man.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you His Majesty Charles III.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of Congress, representatives of the American people across all states, territories...
I also want to just take a second to point out that look how proud they are to stand and applause for the King of England. But not our President of our United States. But they will stand and applaud for everything, and I mean everything, that the King says. Now, granted, the conservatives applauded also, but that's what we do. I mean, we recognize the fact that we did come from England, right? But I think most of us also recognize the nefarious actions that England can have with us. But the Democrats, they stood straight up and applauded. That shows you where they're at. They don't love our country. And there was that Hakeem Jeffries with that fine American name. Yeah, baby.
And for all of that time, our destinies as nations have been interlinked. As Oscar Wilde said, we have really everything in common.
Interlinked, intertwined, or have you just manipulated us every step of the way to do the work for you?
We meet in times of great uncertainty, in times of conflict from Europe to the Middle East, which pose immense challenges for the international community and whose impact is felt in communities the length and breadth of our own countries. We meet too in the aftermath of the incident not far from this great building that sought to harm the leadership of your nation and to foment wider fear and discord. Let me say with unshakable resolve, such acts of violence.
But yet your government and our government will mass immigrate millions of Muslims into our country that don't want to assimilate to our countries. They want to take our countries over.
Whatever our differences, whatever disagreements we may have, we stand united in our commitment to uphold democracy, to protect all our people from harm, and to salute the courage.
We don't have the same anything with them anymore. If we did, right, the same values, the same principles, right, Keir Starmer would have understood that Iran was a clear threat to Europe as well as America, as well as Israel, right? And Keir Starmer wouldn't have hesitated to let President Trump, use the military base on the island over there. You remember the one that Iran hit with a missile that everybody said they couldn't do, but they did? If our interests were shared, there would have been no hesitation for President Trump to use that island that we built.
This citadel of democracy created to represent the voice of all American people to advance sacred rights and freedoms. Speaking in this renowned chamber of debate and deliberation, I cannot help but think of my late mother, Queen Elizabeth, who in 1991 was also afforded this signal honor and similarly spoke under the watchful eye of the Statue of Freedom above us. Today, I am here on this great occasion in the life of our nations to express the highest regard and friendship of the British people to the people of the United States. The spirit of 1776 in our minds, we can perhaps agree that we do not always agree, at least in the first instance. Indeed, the very principle on which your Congress was founded, no taxation without representation, was at once a fundamental disagreement between us and at the same time a shared democratic value which you inherited from us. Ours is a partnership born out of dispute, but no less strong for it. So perhaps in this example, we can discern that our nations are in fact instinctively like-minded, a product of the common democratic, legal, and social traditions in which our governance is rooted to this day. Drawing on these values and traditions, time and again, our two countries have always found ways to come together. And by Jove, Mr. Speaker, when we have found that way to agree, what great change is brought about, not just for the benefit of our peoples, but of all peoples. This, I believe, is the special ingredient in our relationship. As President Trump himself observed during his state visit to Britain last autumn, the bond of kinship and identity between America and the United Kingdom is priceless and eternal. It is irreplaceable and unbreakable.
So now we got Nancy Pelosi and whoever the hell else is sitting with her, right? But it makes you wonder, did she bring her Pelosi bottle?
To Washington, D.C., the capital of this great republic. It is in fact my 20th visit to the United States and my first as King and head of the Commonwealth. This is a city which symbolizes a period in our shared history, or what Charles Dickens might have called a tale of two Georges. The first president, George Washington, and my 5 times great-grandfather, King George III. King George, as you know, never set foot in America, and please rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, I am not here as part of some cunning rearguard action. The Founding Fathers were bold and imaginative rebels with a cause. 200...
Rebels with a cause that beat out the biggest country and military in the world at the time. Rebels without a cause. We had a cause.
They declared independence by balancing contending forces and drawing strength into diversity. They united 13 disparate colonies to forge a nation on the revolution.
Boy, sure didn't see the Democrats stand up and applaud for that one, did we? Huh.
They carried with them and carried forward the great inheritance of the British Enlightenment, as well as the ideals which had an even deeper history in English common law and Magna Carta. These roots run deep.
Pageantry surrounding this visit was a typical Donald Trump show. The jets flew over. Decorum was grandly observed, or so you thought. The president is intent on saving Western civilization, so he's courting the real power in the UK and Europe, namely the king himself. 2 things struck me about the White House ceremony: a paragraph in the president's seemingly fawning speech, and the weird visit to the new and thriving White House beehives. Here's the part of the speech I'm talking about.
But beneath those beautiful flags 8 decades ago, Prime Minister Winston Churchill and President Franklin Roosevelt famously met on a ship in the North Atlantic to outline a vision for the free world after World War II. That understanding of our nation's unique bond and role in history is the essence of our special relationship, and we hope it will always remain that way.
What really happened on those ships between Roosevelt and Churchill? Roosevelt's son Elliot says FDR conditioned America's entry into World War II on ending the empire's colonial system after the war. He called that system backward and mired in the 18th century. Here's how FDR described those 18th century methods to Churchill as set forth in Elliot Roosevelt's book, As He Saw It. Whichever of your ministers recommends a policy which takes raw materials out of a colonial country, but which returns nothing to the people of that country in consideration. 20th century methods involve bringing industries to these countries. 20th century methods include increasing the wealth of a people by the standard of living, by educating them, by bringing them sanitation. I can't believe that we can fight a war against fascist slavery and at the same time not work to free people all over the world from a backward colonial policy. Then there were the beehives. In ancient British and Scottish tradition, especially among royal and rural families, you must formally tell the bees of any major change in the household, a death, a marriage, and most importantly, a new master in the house. Fail to do so, and the hive may abandon you. The British royals practiced this faithfully. Trump took the king to the White House hives to show him America is the new master. Then Charles went to Congress, where the empire still exercised a great degree of control and made not so subtle attacks on the president. In his speech, the king dropped the line that, quote, the Magna Carta is cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789, not least as the foundation of the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances. That earned him whoops and a standing ovation in the Congress it was a subtle attack on Trump. He claimed our revolution came from the Enlightenment when it was, in reality, based on the Renaissance and the writings of Gottfried Leibniz. He praised Henry Kissinger, the man who declared himself a British agent in a 1982 speech at Chatham House. Then he claimed NATO was vital for the righteous cause of Ukraine and to prevent disaster from melting polar ice caps. He ended with his typical environmental devotional to nature, giving that religion the same space in his speech as his alleged Christianity. Given the new reality Trump has spent the last year creating in the world, I have no doubt that he graciously told King Charles to get on board with a new American century or suffer the consequences. Now, if you're beginning to realize that the world works a little bit differently than what you're seeing or have been told, then subscribe to Promethean Action's free newsletter at prometheanaction.com. We cover the fight from the standpoint of the real historical battle between empire and sovereign nations. And right now, the empire is losing. Charles came begging on the same day the DOJ went on offense.
The alliance that our two nations have built over the centuries, and for which we are profoundly grateful to the American people, is truly unique. And that alliance is part of what Henry Kissinger described as Kennedy's soaring vision of an Atlantic partnership based on twin.
They hate our country, bro. The English hate us. And Charles has a disdain for it. You could tell every time he goes to speak about our country, right? But I just want to say this to Charles. Take the Muslims with you, Charles. Take all the immigrants with you. We don't want none of them. This is your bright idea. No borders, right? Take all of them with you. We don't want them. We don't want none of them. Not the Muslims, not the Somalis, not the Haitians. No. We don't want none of them. We don't want no immigrants in our country. If you're an immigrant, yo, you gotta go, bro. It ain't nothing personal. It's just business. You gotta go. You thought it was just business and it wasn't personal when you were hurting our women and hurting our daughters and our sons and all that stuff and coming in our country with drugs and polluting our country and stuff. No, you gotta go. It's time to get radical. They gotta go, President Trump. Push them. Push them. They know who the boss is. You're the boss, the orange man. The big bad orange man is the boss.
The challenges we face are too great for any one nation to bear alone. But in this unpredictable environment, our alliance cannot rest on past achievements or assume that foundational principles simply endure. As my Prime Minister said last month, ours is an indispensable partnership. We must not disregard everything that has sustained us for the last 80 years. Instead, we must build on it.
Sounds like just another great English manipulation line to me. The same thing they've been doing to us for the last 250 years. That's it. Great English manipulation. You know how the English, they got that accent in their voice, so it sounds all innocent. But the whole time, it's nothing but nefarious. Bro, 250 years they've been using the same tactic with us, bro. Talking about, oh, we're intertwined. The whole time they're just writing the information down. No. You didn't want to help us when we needed you. We don't need you now. We won't need you later.
Following in the naval footsteps of my father, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, my grandfather, King George VI, my great-uncle, Lord Mountbatten, and my great-grandfather, King George V. This year, of course...
I just want to take a minute to give gratitude and big ups to the man sitting there raising Cain. What a great general. One of the greatest generals of our time. It's because of him that President Trump has been able to succeed the way he has in Iran and everywhere else. What a tremendous general. Thank you, Raising King. Thank you for your service.
We stood with you then, And we stand with you now in solemn remembrance of a day that shall never be forgotten.
Sounds like President Trump told him, get down or lay down. Telling you, ain't it funny how these Democrats always stand for a foreign power but never stand for our own president? I'm telling you, man, it disgusts me. I'm telling you, they've been infiltrated. They need to be rectified.
When NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, and the United Nations Security Council was united in the face of terror, we answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century, shoulder to shoulder, through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and moments that have defined our shared security.
Well, when it breaks out in your country now, I hope you don't think that we're going to just stand with you. And I hope the government don't plan to stand with you. You brought this problem upon yourself. We have warned you over and over again to get these immigrants out of your country before it's too late. And you keep on bringing more in. From what I understand, you're supposed to bring 1 million more Pakistanis in your country today. Explain it to me.
It is needed in order to secure a truly just and lasting peace. From the depths of the Atlantic to the disastrously melting ice caps of the Arctic, the commitment and expertise of the United States Armed Forces and its allies lie at the heart of NATO, pledged to each other's defense, protecting our citizens and interests, keeping North Americans and Europeans safe from our common adversaries. Our defense, intelligence, and security ties are hardwired together through relationships measured not in years, but in decades. Today, thousands of US service personnel, defense officials and their families are stationed in the United Kingdom as British personnel serve with equal pride across 30 American states. We are building F-35s together, and we have agreed the most ambitious submarine program in history, AUKUS. And we are doing it in partnership with Australia, a country of which I'm also immensely proud to serve as sovereign. We do not embark on these remarkable endeavors together out of sentiment. We do so because they build greater shared resilience for the future, so making our citizens safer for generations to come. Our common ideals were not only crucial for liberty and equality, they are also the foundation of our shared prosperity.
See, but free speech falls within the confines of that, and you have thrown that out the window.
So as we look toward the next 250 years, we must also reflect on our shared responsibility to safeguard nature, our most precious and irreplaceable asset.
All of this in one day. And that doesn't even count the grand jury in Florida considering a massive conspiracy indictment for the illegal and unconstitutional actions against Trump from 2015 to 2024, starting with the Russiagate hoax instigated by the British intelligence services in the form of MI6 agent Christopher Steele and the longtime British asset George Soros. Now, while the empire's domestic networks are being rolled up here, their geopolitical anchor in the Middle East collapsed on the same day.
The natural wonders of the United States of America are indeed a unique asset.
Charles came begging on the same day the DOJ went on offense. There could be no more fitting answer to the assassination attempt this weekend than the indictment of Jim Comey for his May 2025 seashell assassination message targeting Donald Trump. You can read the indictment for yourself here. It's filed in the Eastern District of North Carolina, where the threat was made. Think about the impact of that seashell message on a highly educated but emotionally stunted human being like Cole Thomas Allen, the guy who tried to assassinate Trump and his entire cabinet at the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday. This is the way I think he thought. The former director of the FBI says the seashell message 8647 is, quote, cool. If I off Trump and his cabinet, I'm helping the good guys like Comey get back in power. They'll say I died a hero. The Justice Department has been working this case ever since Comey put that message on Instagram a year ago. He took it down, obviously, and claimed he didn't know it had any relationship to political violence. The indictment means DOJ now has evidence to defeat Comey's ignorance and First Amendment defenses. It also appears that 8647 is a code prominent Democrats have been using to avoid liability for directly threatening Donald Trump's life while thrilling to the idea of killing him. The DOJ also came for Dr. Tony Fauci. Well, not him yet, but the guy who did his crimes for him in covering up the Wuhan lab origins of COVID. David Morans, Fauci's former assistant, has been indicted in Maryland. The indictment lays out a conspiracy between Morans and unnamed co-conspirators 1 and 2, believed by the New York Post to be Dr. Peter Daszak, president of the EcoHealth Alliance, and Dr. Gerald Koich of Boston University, an NIH grantee. The conspiracy involves covering up the role of the Wuhan lab, where Daszak and Koich supervised the COVID research grant which created COVID itself. The conspirators ran a public relations campaign claiming a natural COVID origin and obstructed and falsified the evidence pointing to Wuhan and to their own complicity. The evidence here appears devastating. The question now is whether they plead out and fingered Fauci himself. Finally, the day started with massive search warrant executions and federal raids in Minnesota by Vice President Vance's fraud task force. The raids cap a month of activity to track down and prosecute federal entitlement and loan fraud in the billions of dollars. SNAP, daycare, and other welfare programs in Minnesota have been targeted, along with COVID relief loans nationally and fake hospice services in California. All of this in April alone. It is widely suspected that those monies are being laundered to Democratic political campaigns and their social advocacy insurrection organizations. All of this in one day. And that doesn't even count the grand jury in Florida, considering a massive conspiracy indictment for the illegal and unconstitutional actions against Trump from 2015 to 2024.
All right, guys, I want to thank you guys for stopping by and joining me, man. Hey, man, you know what to make out of the video. I want to take a minute to stop and say thank you to President Trump for all your sacrifices, and Melania for all your sacrifices, the First Lady, everything you've had to go through for our country and for us, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your service. God bless America, and God bless the President of the United States.